the Pope locates the Church of the Poor, the mission of the Church of the Poor, at a deeper level. What is at stake here is, are we faithful to Jesus or not? Are we faithful to Jesus or not? In 1980, the Holy Father addressed the Favela dos Alagados, no, in Brazil. And he says, it is God who desires your human advancement. No? More than the church. It is God. It is God who desires your human advancement. No? And the church desires it only because God desires it. Because the church is faithful to God. So he says, do not say, he tells the poor in the favelas, do not say that it is God's will that you remain in a condition of poverty, unhealthy housing that is contrary in many ways to your dignity as human persons. Do not say it is God who wills it. Do not say it is God who wills it. God wills your human advancement, and so the church will advance your human dignity. I cited those two because contrary to what some people say about the social teaching of John Paul II, it is not just pure activism, doing something. For him, something deeper is happening here. Are we faithful to God, to Jesus, or not? Are we promoting God's will or not? The fifth stop. No, we have been quoting from the popes and the council fathers. No, let me jump to Asia for the sake of chronology. I know that different episcopal conferences and bishops in Asia have taken up this task of reflecting on the Church of the Poor. But since I come from the Philippines, may I share with you, what the second plenary council of the Philippines said regarding the Church of the Poor in 1991. And it decreed, it decreed that for the church in the Philippines to be a renewed church, it must be Church of the Poor. How did the bishops and the delegates to the Second Plenary Council of the Philippines describe the Church of the Poor that will renew the whole church? I will not explain them anymore because they are self-explanatory. And I'm sure those of you from other parts of Asia could say, yeah, that's true. We need that too. That is a calling to us also. Here are some of the characteristics of a Church of the Poor in the Philippines. First, it is a church that practices evangelical poverty. The poverty of the gospel, meaning it trusts in God more than it trusts anybody else and any resource, especially material resource. Trusting in God. Secondly, the members of the Church of the Poor have a special love for the poor. Loving all, but with a special love for the poor. Very close to what Pope John the 23rd said. Loving all, but especially the poor. Third, in the Church of the poor people are not discriminated against. For example, they are not to be denied sacraments just because they could not give stipends. They should not be denied pastoral service simply because they are poor. I'm sure we all have had experiences. We think of ourselves as already Church of the Poor, non-discriminatory. But sometimes our attitudes reveal that there is still a bit of discrimination. When it is a potential benefactor that wants to see us, we adjust our schedule. When it is a beggar wanting to see the priest, we tell the secretary, "Oh, tell the beggar, he is busy." No discrimination. Fourth characteristic, the pastors and pastoral leaders give attention and time to the poor and share their resources with the poor. Time, attention, resources. The fifth, the Church of the Poor is in solidarity and collaboration with the poor in lifting them from the situation of poverty. In solidarity and collaboration with the poor as they strive to get out of their situation of poverty. The next, the Church of the Poor vindicates the rights of the poor and the oppressed. So the Church of the Poor becomes the voice of the voiceless. The next, the church, the church will be evangelized by the poor. The whole church will learn from the poor. The poor are not just passive recipients from the church. The poor will actively guide and teach the church how to follow Christ. Here, for my brother bishops and priests, another characteristic of the Church of the Poor, according to the Second Plenary of Council of the Philippines, in the Church of the Poor, the pastors will not compete against one another for the most prosperous parish or positions in the church. They will not compete with one another for titles. Why is he my Lord and I am only your grace? Why was he given the cathedral? I have a doctoral degree. I deserve more. He is just 3 years ordained. Why is he now rector of the seminary? I am 42 years ordained. I should be the vicar general. According to the Second Plenary Council, that is not the Church of the Poor. In fact, this is in confidence to you, but even I know it is being recorded. When I was named a bishop, no, someone asked me, no, from another diocese, how did you become a bishop? You are not even a monsignor. I said, well, maybe those who are named monsignors will not become bishops because he is a monsignor. But the mentality, How could a simple father be considered as a candidate for the episcopate? I mean, what type of mentality is that? My Lord. And finally, the Second Plenary Council of the Philippines said, for me, this is the apex of it all. In the Church of the Poor, the center of gravity of the church's life will be tilted towards the poor. The center of gravity of the life of the church will be tilted towards the poor. These words come from Asia. An extended reflection from our own continent on being Church of the Poor, 1991. Now, let me jump now. You look like you're hungry already. I have 10 of words. Yeah. So maybe 10 to 15 minutes more. Now, the sixth stop is Pope Benedict XVI. As Michelle already indicated, we have this whole body of teaching on love. Deus Caritas est, Caritas in Veritatem. Is that right? Yeah, Caritas in Veritatem, etc. No? But I would like to focus on this. Now, I have not done extensive research, but in at least in Deus Caritas est, I might be mistaken. No, I did not see the terminology Church of the Poor. Instead, in part 2 of Deus Caritas est, the Pope, who is a great thinker, no, and very nuanced, says Caritas, practice of love by the church as a community of love. As a community of love. And he presents the 3 pillars that are indispensable for the church. Ministry of the Word, ministry of sacrament, and love, charity. This is a sophisticated reflection of Pope Benedict, this whole encyclical, especially the second part, on various themes: justice and charity, the role of the church vis-a-vis the state in setting a world that is just, organized charity for effective. I think it is one of the desires of Pope Benedict to avoid dichotomies. Even before becoming Pope, he did not like labels like Church of the People, Church of the Hierarchy, as though those are 2 different churches. I think he is quite wary about church of this, church of that. That's why he, without denying, in fact, he even says, the church without service of love to the poor lacks one of the 3 pillars that must be present in the church. But he prefers to use the terminology community of love. A community of love. But he also says the option for the poor is implicit in our faith in a God who became poor. So, what we call Church of the Poor with an option for the poor, for him, is not a demand of an ideology. It is not a demand of social analysis. It is a demand of faith. We believe in a God who became poor in the incarnation of Jesus. So that faith in God leads us to opt for the poor. It's an imperative of faith. And lastly, the seventh stop is Pope Francis. As Michelle already indicated in Evangelii Gaudium, number 198, he says, echoing Pope Benedict, he says, for the Church, the option for the poor is primarily a theological category. The option for the poor is a theological category rather than a cultural, sociological, political, or philosophical one. Why is the option for the poor a theological category? Because God shows His mercy to the poor. Jesus became poor, and we are asked in Philippians, put on the mind of Christ. Christ, though rich, became poor. We have to put on the same mind. So, option for the poor, just like in the thought of Pope Benedict, is an imperative of faith and discipleship. The God we believe in, Jesus whom we are following, became poor. So the Church, in faith, follows the same path. And it is in this context that he says, that is why I want a church which is poor and for the poor. A church that is truly following Christ. A church that puts on the mind and attitude of Christ. And talking about the poor, he says, they have much to teach us. Not only do they share in the sensus fidei, but in their difficulties, they know the suffering Christ. We need to let ourselves be evangelized by them. Learning from them how to believe, how to hope, how to love. I'm sure we all have experienced that. No? We go to the poor thinking that we will bring joy and hope. But after our encounter, they are the ones who know what true hope means. They are the ones who are encouraging us. Sometimes we know hope from our readings and from our study. But they know hope from their bones. From their bones. And so the Holy Father, Pope Francis invites us